All right, look. I hit the live button and then I realized it wasn't floating. Okay? So stand by. You're going to see a live demonstration of how to put the helmet, because it's a little difficult. It's magnetic on the thing here. Live demonstration. Oh, I feel the pressure. I actually feel the pressure. Boom. No pressure. You kidding me? Pressure is a privilege. I understand, and it's fixed. What's going on, everyone? The helmet's fixed. Happy MLB opening day. Happy Paul Skeens day to all the Pirate fans out there. Happy Pirates blow another game. Happy Pirates don't spend any money day. It's okay. We're not here to talk about the Pirates. We're here to talk about the Raiders and the happiness that the Raiders are bringing to me in the form of patience. You will learn patience. My name is Rodney. If you already knew that, thank you so much for coming back and watching another live stream. I'm all out of sorts because the helmet wasn't right. If you're watching live on Bleacher Report, thank you so much for joining the live. Make sure we are sharing it. Make sure we are commenting away. I see people filling up the chat already. If you're watching after the fact on my YouTube channel, ALLaBorde Raiders, hit that like button, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. March Madness is going on. I've got Alabama in the championship. So if I could potentially get an Alabama update in the chat every now and again, I know they were like tied at half or something like that. Oh, they're up a lot. And Florida's up a lot. Florida's my champion. Look, we're not going to celebrate. Okay. Job's not finished. Kobe Bryant, RIP. But things are looking up for the bracket. Smash cut to me at the end of this. Alabama loses, Florida loses, and my weekend's over, and I delete the app. We got a lot to discuss, Raider Nation. A lot to discuss. Now, tomorrow, I'm considering doing my version of betting odds, quote unquote, for who exactly I think is most likely to get picked by us sixth overall, if we do even make that selection, if you catch my drift. Last year, I was thinking the whole time it was going to be Michael Penix, but my sleeper dark horse, if you weren't there and you don't know, was Brock Bowers. Not many people, national pundits or Raiders YouTubers, were suggesting Brock Bowers to the Raiders. This was the only one. So stick with me, kid, if you want to see some information. That's going to be tomorrow. Okay, obviously today you've seen the title of the video. We're going to talk about how we are going about our business, free agents, contracts, the idea of balancing, bringing back some of the people that we should have brought back, like, like a Malcolm Kuntz, letting some people go, like a Trayvon Merrick, the state of the free agent class that we were going into, right? Pete Carroll and John Spytek's relationship. John Spytek just had an interview that was uploaded to the Raiders YouTube channel like 20 minutes ago. So I was watching it on 2x speed to get little nuggets out of that video for you guys. I got a couple things here written down that I'm going to get into in a second. We'll hit quickly on the Ashton Genty thing again because I talked about it last week. We'll do that right now real quick. We now, speaking of those real Vegas betting odds, we have the best odds to draft Ashton Genty. Apparently Spytek was seen at his house, or not at his house, but he was like in his they're all at his pro day, obviously, but he was like near his residence or something. He was eating food near Ashton Genty. I don't know. This is the time of year where you're going to hear all sorts of Matthew Stafford is skiing with Tom Brady and his kids or whatever, things like that. The thing that everybody's talking about, oh, you just saw the Spytek interview? Yeah, it was good. I haven't finished it because, again, I've got a job to do for you guys, and it is not talk about how the Pirates are going to waste Paul Skeens' potential. Apparently, somebody, tweeted out or shared an Instagram post that says John Spytek is at Genty's pro day and he's mingling with, like, he's just like, he's in the vicinity, and Ashton Genty liked the Instagram post, and now everyone's like, it's a lock. Now look, to spoil, I guess. Okay, yeah, here. Rumors someone tweeted that their friend was serving Spytek and Genty at a restaurant. Okay, there you go. Thank you, rock and rolla. I do think, again, to spoil, I guess, who I think is most likely to get drafted by us. I think Ashton Genty is most likely to get drafted by us. I do not put any stock into Ashton Genty liked an Instagram post, so now it's a lock. The reason I don't put a lot of stock into that is because put yourself into Ashton Genty's shoes. You're scrolling through Instagram and you see your name and you see Raiders interested in Ashton Genty. And you're like, I like the Raiders. It'd be cool to go there. I'll give that a like. Now, if you keep scrolling and you go, Jets really want Ashton Genty. Oh, Jets are cool. I mean, Justin Fields would be kind of sick and Aaron Glenn. I'll give that a like. Like, if I was chronically online, not saying that Ashton Genty is, I'm famously not chronically online. Don't really have an Instagram, don't have a Twitter, don't have anything. I stay away and it's healthier. The only thing I go on is right here, YouTube and Bleacher Report. If I was on the internet all the time and I saw my name being thrown out to be a top 5, top 10 pick and all these teams wanted me, I would probably give it a like. I'd say, "Hey, thanks, appreciate it." That doesn't mean I am now telling you, "Hey, I want to play for the New Orleans Saints because Derek Carr said I wear good clothes," or so, like that doesn't mean anything. Okay? Spy is going to be talking a lot or talking to a lot of targets. Yeah, no doubt about it. He's doing his homework, no doubt about it. And it gets into the front office that we now have compared to Gruden and Mayock, which felt like rip it down to the studs. McDaniels and Ziegler, which is like we're gonna wheel and deal, we're gonna trade for Devontae, and we're gonna draft Tyree Wilson and stack him with Max Crosby. And it's like, can we all just take a deep breath and evaluate where this team is right now and evaluate what we should be doing moving forward? Because if you go back in time a little bit, just to the McDaniel Ziegler of it all, the fact that they made that all-in trade for Devontae Adams, and look, at the time, and I still think it was like a smart move in terms of, all right, Derek Carr is coming off a really good season. They just made the playoffs. They have a top 10 offense. Jacobs is one of the best running backs in the league. We just need that number one wideout. We'll fix the defense with Patrick Graham. Let's go trade for Devontae Adams. The problem is the very next year, they cut Derek Carr, the same quarterback that they extended and gave a no trade clause to. They then cut him. Feels pretty reactionary and a little loosey goosey. That's an insane thing to do, especially when you've traded for Devontae Adams, his best friend and a clear-cut number one wideout, maybe the best wide receiver in the league at the time. And then McDaniel's like, it's fine. I'll just get Jimmy Garoppolo and we'll be fine. And, halfway through the season, Jimmy's benched for Aiden O'Connell and McDaniel's is fired. That shows a lack of competency, a lack of self-awareness. And I was sitting, it was like 3 a.m. a couple nights ago, couldn't sleep, staring up at the wall, thinking about what this team's going to be next year because we lost Christian Ellis. He signed, or the Patriots matched our offer. It was like a 2-year, $14 million contract. That's tough because I made a whole video about how I think he could be the next version of Robert Spillane. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, what is the realistic expectations for the Raiders next season? Like, if they win 8 games, should we really be disappointed if they double us up from 4 wins to 8? And it might feel disappointing because you maybe are a game or 2 away from the playoffs and you're like, man, we were close. And now it's going to be another offseason. But I do think John Spytek, Pete Carroll, and Tom Brady took a real hard look at this roster before they decided we're going to have this path, this way of thinking before free agency. And they looked at it and they said, okay, this is a 4-win roster, right? On the surface. It's a little bit better because they have, star power and Max Crosby and Brock Bowers. They need a quarterback desperately. So let's focus all our energy on getting the quarterback right. Getting the quarterback upgraded to a point where we have at least a chance. And I do think, although this is not a rebuild, they're trying to win games right now. Like, if this was a rebuild, they would have traded Max, they would have tanked for Arch, right? That's not what they're doing. They're trying to win as many games next year as they can. And who knows, they could flip the script and win 11 games. But if you told me next year it's like 8 or 9, I think I'm okay with that. Because again, it's about getting the train back on the tracks. Now, with all that being said, there's an article here from the New York Times, The Athletic. And they've talked about the winners and the losers of the offseason. And they have like this whole point system, which I think is really interesting here. And, not to spoil it, but the title of the article says NFL projection model, Raiders Commanders winning the offseason, 49 and Cowboys slipping. And we got a picture of Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. This is by Austin Mock. Shout out to Mock Drafts. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, keep the chats a-flowing. I will discuss momentarily. The NFL offseason is well underway, and while the NFL draft is upcoming and will shake things up even more, there has been no shortage of roster-altering moves. The biggest, of course, have yet to come with quarterbacks Aaron Rodgers, blah, blah, blah. We know this. Geno Smith was traded to the Raiders, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it gets into the algorithm that they have. So here we go. Teams have plenty of time to alter their standings in these rankings that they've created here, but we wanted to examine where things are right now. How much value have some teams added? How much have some teams lost? To measure that, my model uses a handful of advanced metrics and assigns a value to every player in the NFL. Think of that value as how much of a single player affects the point spread of the expected winning percentage of a single game involved. I know. After that, I went through every transaction and made this offseason and calculated the value added or lost up through, a couple days ago. Since I'm only looking at how these moves affected each team for the 2025 season, my model does not factor in the length of the contract or money spent on the contract. It's also important to note that this process only assesses player changing teams. Players who re-signed with their teams aren't included because those players' values are already included in their team's projection. So it does not include re-signing Kuntz or Crosby, right? Or Adam Butler. Okay. With that explanation out of the way, here's a look at how many expected points each NFL team had added or lost this offseason. And here's where we stand. Look at this. Expected points added since the end of 2024 season, according to the Austin Mock's projection model. The Raiders are far and away the highest at 35.8 improvement points. Pretty dang good. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, 5 biggest winners, Las Vegas Raiders. I'm not sure how any list doesn't include the Raiders at the top or at the very least the top 3 after landing Geno Smith. The Raiders roster isn't ready to compete for a playoff spot, which is basically what I was saying a couple minutes ago, especially in the vaunted AFC West, but they've solidified the spot's most important position with the quarterback who has proven he can give you a solid floor as a league average quarterback with the ability for more. And with quarterback presumably locked down for the next few seasons, new coach Pete Carroll can focus on acquiring talent to fill out the rest of the roster. And I think that's ultimately why this offseason has been a modest success at the very least, because you figured out the quarterback situation. Now, when I discussed maybe going to grab Sam Darnold, and I'm gonna throw this poll out here right now. When I discussed the Sam Darnold of it all, the pushback, which I thought was kind of ridiculous, but whatever, it is what it is. It's the pushback, and that helps me make my point here. The pushback was, well, Sam Darnold only had the success with Kevin O'Connell. If we could bring Kevin O'Connell with Sam Darnold, which obviously wasn't going to happen, I'd be more comfortable giving him XYZ for his contract. And John Spytek discussed why it was huge to have Pete Carroll in the building when they traded for Geno Smith. Basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, Pete's ability to speak on behalf of Geno Smith before we traded for him was huge. And I thought to myself, this is Pete Carroll's impact at the highest level. The ability to basically have our cake and eat it too. Look, you can trade for Geno Smith, but there's no guarantee that he's going to be playing at the same level that he was under Pete Carroll in Seattle. Unless, of course, Pete Carroll was your head coach. This is quite literally what everyone was saying was the only avenue forward with Sam Darnold, which was an impossibility. Getting his coach, Kevin O'Connell, and pairing him with the quarterback, Sam Darnold, that he had throw for 4,800 yards and 35 touchdowns. We now have that with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. This is a proven commodity, a proven system. He also discussed, Pete's ability to see the vision of replacing a Trayvon Merrick with the Jeremy Chin. That Jeremy Chin is going to be that Cam Chancellor, big, brooding, strong safety. Sidney Crosby breaks wing, gets 3 points per game record. Love that. Go Penguins. the ability for Pete Carroll to have the vision to see how we can construct this defense, whether we re-sign Trayvon Merrick or find his replacement in Jeremy Chin. And this goes to, and I kind of wanted to put this poll out here pretty fast because I knew everyone was going to say, yeah, we're pretty happy with the offseason so far. Okay, so let's unpin this and close this. But winning the offseason, having a good offseason, we wouldn't be where we are without Pete Carroll specifically. He was able to speak on behalf of Geno Smith. He said John Spytek mentioned that Pete Carroll said, I know exactly what Geno Smith does well, and I know where we need to support him. And I think that's through making sure we have a very strong run game. So you go out and you get the offensive coordinator who has coached two of the running backs coming out in the draft. They both had 1,000 yards under Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's played against the likes of other running backs that will be coming into the draft this season. Maybe you pair Chip Kelly with one of his Ohio State running backs or Ashton Jeanty. This is all for Geno Smith to be able to play to his strengths at the highest level. And this is kind of what I was getting at when we initially were interested in Pete Carroll. Now, I made my top 5 lists of coaches that I would hire before the Saints game was even played. And I mentioned maybe give AP another shot. Maybe it's Ben Johnson. Maybe it's Mike Vrabel. But another guy I threw out there was Pete Carroll. And here was what everybody said. Not everybody, but the consensus. He's too old. He's too old. What's he going to do? He's going to be here for 4 years and then leave? And my point was this. If Pete Carroll in 4 years can get the train on the tracks, we can find our next great running back. We could plug in Jeremy Chin to be that next version of Cam Chancellor. If he's 70% of Cam Chancellor, that's a win. He can re-sign Max Crosby. He can get the most out of a Brock Bowers. He can have his staff in place. Patrick Graham, Chip Kelly. If 4 years from now, the team that he hands off to the next head coach has found some version of the franchise quarterback with Geno Smith as a mentor, he has fixed the running game, and he's continued to improve on this defense, why would you not want that guy to come in here and do all that? And then in 4 years' time, you hand the keys of the castle to Patrick Graham or Chip Kelly or the next version of Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel that's out there. This is why you hire Pete Carroll in the first place, because he's a professional. John Spytek, working with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, had those scouting meetings with him. The only other people in Tom Brady's career that had those scouting meetings was Nick Caserio, who's now a phenomenal GM in Houston, and Bill Belichick. That was also John Spytek, the same version of Nick Caserio for Tom Brady. Tom Brady's still there. This thing is starting to feel competent. And I had this epiphany at 3 a.m, staring up at my ceiling, when I was thinking about Aaron Rodgers. And if you would allow me to just weave Aaron Rodgers into this whole thing. Aaron Rodgers, and it's very funny. People are like, why? What's taking so long? You're picking between the Giants and the Steelers. Like, this is no discussion. The Steelers have a way better roster. The Steelers, blah, 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 blah. Guys, whether or not you think the Steelers have a better roster than the Giants, I would agree they probably do. Whether or not you think it's obvious that he should go play for them and win 11 games and get bounced in the first round, here's the reality. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to play for Pittsburgh, or he'd already be there. Aaron Rodgers didn't want to play for the Giants, or he would have signed there instead of Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Aaron Rodgers wanted to play for the Rams. That didn't happen because Stafford didn't get traded. He wanted to play for the Vikings. That didn't happen, clearly, because it would have happened already. They're committed to J.J. McCarthy. Aaron Rodgers probably wanted to play for the Raiders and have Devontae Adams come back, right? But that wasn't going to happen either. And the reason why I'm discussing Aaron Rodgers and weaving it all back into the Raiders is because look at the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. Because Schefter just came out with a report that said Aaron Rodgers might sit the season out. He doesn't want to retire. He doesn't want to go out like he went out, but he's going to sit the season out, wait for someone to get injured, or for next year for another position to open up. And now you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Russell Wilson's off the market, and Jameis Winston's off the market, and Sam Darnold's gone, and Geno Smith has been traded, and Stafford has re-signed. What do? Kenny Pickett is on the Browns. Daniel Jones is a Cole. What do the Pittsburgh Steelers do? The problem with Pittsburgh was that they focused all their energy on, what if we went and got DK Metcalf? Great. Who's going to throw the ball to him? Mason Rudolph? What was our priority numero uno before free agency even began? Get the quarterback. Because we cannot go into next season in quarterback limbo like we did last year with Aiden and Gardner. It would have been nice to see a full season of Aiden just to see what could have happened, but that ship has sailed. It's over with that. The Steelers are now in a way worse position than we were last season because even Gardner Minshew has signed a contract. And because of Pete Carroll and his ability to speak on behalf of Geno, we went out and traded for him. If we had hired, pick somebody, Robert Saleh, Mike Vrabel, right? And Spytek was our GM and was like, we're considering trading for Geno. What if Vrabel was like, we could, but I don't really know him that well. All of a sudden, we don't trade for Geno. Do we sign Sam Darnold? I think that would have worked, but we don't. Like, does Chip Kelly come out of, college football to coach under someone who isn't Pete Carroll? Do we have an offensive coordinator that's good enough to coach Sam Darnold? This is all because of Pete Carroll. So I have an idea of where this is going to go, but I'm going to just put this out here and see what people are saying. How would you grade Pete Carroll's impact on this franchise so far? Because to me, it's an A+. If I can give him a higher grade, I would. Now, we'll see if he's still got the juice and the energy. I mean, I just watched Rick Pitino, who's older than Pete Carroll, running up and down the sidelines coaching St. John's against John Calipari in a suit with all the lights shining bright on him. I think Pete Carroll can do the same thing for 16 games or 17 games, hopefully a couple more games than that, right? But all that to say, the Pittsburgh Steelers are screwed. Doesn't matter how good their roster is. They got no quarterback. Rodgers does not want to play there. We would have Aaron Rodgers on our team if Pete Carroll wasn't here to vouch for Geno Smith. So that's what I think is so important about all this, is that at least we have a puncher's chance. Now, did free agency go perfectly? No, I don't think so. I think they would have loved to have Trayvon back or Spillane back. I think they really were trying to go after Chris Godwin, but he took $20 million less. What are you going to do, right? Sometimes you got to play with the hand you're dealt. And this is a good point that was posted in my Discord. It was a tweet from Vinny Bonsignor, and he basically said, look, the salary cap, if you don't spend all your cap space, it carries over to next year. And clearly, this Raiders front office wasn't enamored enough by this crop of free agents to go out and spend crazily. So now we'll have more money next offseason to spend. But I do like the mix that they did of grabbing some homegrown guys. They prioritized Crosby, Kuntz, Butler, and am I forgetting somebody? I feel like I am. Remind me if I'm forgetting somebody that we re-signed. Oh, Isaiah Polamau. And then they went and got a mix of other guys that can maybe plug and play. A Jeremy Chin, right? And Landon Roberts and Alex Kappa. I could see a world in which, Mayock and Bisaccia, it's like, let's just re-sign everybody and run it back. And then there's the John Gruden or the Dave Ziegler where it's like, and the Josh McDaniels where it's like, Alec Ingold, you were a Pro Bowl running or a Pro Bowl fullback. You're going to get cut, and we're going to go get Jakob Johnson. It's like, what? It doesn't have to be this complicated. Re-sign the really good guys that have the respect of your locker room and are the face of the franchise, right? Max Crosby, Malcolm Kuntz, face of the franchise or respect of the locker room. If you could re-sign everybody, go ahead, but do not overpay for a Nate Hobbs who never plays, and go find replacements. We'll see how good Lonnie Johnson is. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if Eric Stokes can, we can squeeze some more juice out of him. We'll see what happens with Jeremy Chin. We're also going to build through the draft. And the last thing that Spytek said was, look, trading a late third-round pick for Geno Smith, or early third-round pick for Geno Smith was a no-brainer, obviously. Sometimes I have to remind Pete Carroll, look, I love my picks. We can't trade every pick. That is the perfect balance, right? Pete Carroll is probably like, hey, we can give our second and our 2/3 and our fifth for Geno and DK. And Spytek's got to go, look, Pete, look, we can get Geno. That's important, but let's pump the brakes on trading every pick for every player. I know you had the most transactions of all time when you took over for Seattle the first time, but we got to build this thing through the draft as well as through free agency and trades, just like we did in Tampa Bay, right? We signed Baker Mayfield, but we drafted Tristan Wirfs, right? There's a balance to all this. And I think Pete Carroll and John Spytek right now seem to be showing the perfect balance between being aggressive, being nostalgic, being patient, not spending all your money this year because there's going to be better free agents next year. And we'll see what happens with the 6th overall pick. But I do think this offseason, again, not perfect, was the offseason to say, deep breath, okay? Everything's fine. We're going to get the train on the tracks. ODZ, 25 minutes into no chat. We'll get to all of them right now. I was saving it to the end. I was in that flow state. You know what I'm saying? I was on a roll. I was seeing nothing but the camera. I hit the microphone. Can I get an update on the BYU score and the Florida score as I go through some of these chats before we get that gone out of here? Okay, so what do we say? Reload, not rebuild, 100,000%. And by the way, if people are chatting, I can't read them all. I think there's maybe an issue with the app. I don't know. I would say maybe try to re-download, and then download again, or sign out and sign back in, because I can't see all of the people that are chatting. I know I've had some complaints about that, so we're doing our best here. Okay. So I saw reload, not rebuild. I agree with that 100%. Now I can't read these because they're getting whipped back. Okay, here we go. The issue is not. Okay, the issue is we have cap space and holes in the roster, but this free agent class is weak. Yeah, look, again, you got to play the hand you're dealt. I see this draft. This is a draft to trade down to stockpile picks and bring in much talent as we can. I don't disagree with that. I wouldn't mind 2 trade backs if we can get it. Takes 2 to tango. Again, people will be like, trade back. Don't take Gentry at 6. It's like, well, what if nobody wants to trade up, right? This isn't exactly the best draft in the entire world, right? Especially with the quarterbacks. Okay, we will compete for a playoff spot. 4 or 5 new teams make it each year. Why not us? No doubt about it. We can compete for a spot. I just don't know if we're a lock to get one of those. And I think that's completely fair. 8-9 wins feels fair. 7 to 10 wins, right? Something like that. All right. Not going to lie, I wanted A-Rod, but just for 1 year when we draft our future QB. I didn't hate that idea at the time, but I do think Geno Smith was the best quarterback option on the market. Once Stafford was gone, it was not an option anymore. So I didn't hate the Rodgers of it all, but again, there's a chance he didn't want to play for us, and then we'd just be like, please, Aaron, please sign with us, because then we're going to have to trade for Kirk Cousins. Please sign for us. That's what the Steelers are doing right now. Mike Tomlin's like, dude, Aaron, you don't want to play for me? And he's like, no, I don't. Sorry. I'm going to wait. I'm going to Jay Cutler this thing. Alabama winning in a blowout. Let's go. Shout out to BYU, but sorry. It just feels like they've all watched film on these guys. Oh, where'd it go? Retained who they wanted and brought in free agents that they wanted. Yeah, no doubt about it. I was on my soapbox a little. I was in my bag. Florida up big too. I mean, look, I'm not telling you that I'm the greatest bracket creator in the history of the world. I am actually not, because I had Arkansas going to the Elite Eight, and I changed it the morning of to have them lose to St. John's in the first round. I don't want to talk about that anymore. Look, all that to say, I'm happy with the offseason so far. The draft is really going to bring this thing home. Tomorrow's live stream, same time, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will be discussing the likelihood of all these draft picks. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about prospects. We'll talk about needs we got to fill. But this was a tight 30 minutes. Thank you, gang, so much for watching. Whether you're watching live on Bleacher Report, whether you're watching after the fact on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. I just screwed up the outro. Let me do it again. Hit that like button, comment away, and please be sure to subscribe. It's free after no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.